welcome back to All Things Ghostly. I don't know why I did that. That was a little bit intense. We're very high energy today. So, as you guys know, in my last podcast episode, we talked about a list of creepy dolls. Now, I don't know why, but one of them just kind of stayed with me. I just bumped the mic. I'm sorry. Anyway, one of them kind of stayed with me, not gonna lie. And that is Robert. I'm screaming. That is Robert the doll. I can't even say his name because I'm afraid he's gonna come and like spook me, you know? Anyway, so we're gonna be doing a whole episode about him today. So first of all, wish me luck because, the nightmares, they're gonna come, but it's okay. We move on. So yeah, I'm just gonna be talking about him more in depth. I'm gonna go through and read something that kind of describes a little more of like his history and where he came from, and then we're gonna get into some encounters, which I selected a few off of Reddit and we are going to be going through them. I didn't read too much of them just to make sure that it was like a real experience, so it's gonna be a little bit of a surprise. We're gonna be able to see my reaction, all the sassy little comments. Anyway, so we're gonna get right into this today. So this first article we're gonna be reading is by Atlas Obscura. I don't know, I've never heard of that site, but I'll link it in the description or the show note area. You get what I'm saying. I feel like the lighting just changed. RIP. I'm still dealing with lighting issues, so sorry to all of my visual YouTube viewers. It's a work in progress, okay? And there's an ambulance, so uno momento. So we're just gonna get right on into this article, and it literally starts by saying, here is something that most people would agree is true about Robert the doll. He's terrifying. So RIP to me. It's okay. Tear. I'm just kidding. He's kind of a cute little guy. I think Robert is trying to tell me something right now because there's so many sirens, and I feel like it's a sign to not record this, but it's okay. We're just gonna go ahead and do that. The lighting's gonna change. So anyway, the sun is like going in and out of the window. There's a window right there, so we can't do anything about that. Sorry. Ostensibly, I've never heard that word before. Here we go again with the literary shit. A little boy in a sailor suit. His careworn face is only vaguely human. His nub of a nose looks like a pair of pinholes. Yeah, it's really creepy. Like, there's another siren. Robert, should I be taking a message? Anyway, okay. He is covered in brown nicks like scars. His eyes are beady and black. He wears a malevolent smirk. Clasped in his lap, he's holding his own toy. A dog with garish popping eyes and a too big tongue lolling crazily out of his mouth. Here are some other things that people also agree is true about Robert. That he's haunted and that he has caused car accidents, broken bones, job loss, divorce, and a cornucopia of other misfortunes. Robert is now 117 years old and lives at the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida, in a new display case which was recently donated by someone who is a fan of Robert's, says Corey Convertito, curator of the museum. But the comfortable new digs, complete with humidity control and UV filtering glass to preserve the artifact, do not seem to have reformed Robert. The museum still gets regular reports of evils attributed to the doll. Before Robert came to the museum in 1994, he was the property of Robert Eugene Otto, an eccentric artist and member of prominent Key West family. Yes, the doll and the owner had the same name, but the boy answered to Gene, so Gene was kind of like his nickname. Robert was a childhood birthday gift from Otto's grandfather, who bought the doll during a trip to Germany. Otto's relationship with the doll continued into adulthood. Oh gosh, he is so creepy, guys. I'm sure that I'm gonna put a photo of him in the thumbnail, but go look at him on your own. He is crazy looking. This is a direct quote from the museum owner, the the one guy, the convertito guy. What people really remember is what they would probably term as an unhealthy relationship with the doll. He brought it everywhere. He talked about it in the first person as if he weren't a doll. He was Robert, as in he is a live entity. After some digging, the museum traced Robert's origins to the Steiff Company, the same toy maker that first manufactured a teddy bear in honor of Theodore Roosevelt. Robert was most likely never intended to be sold as a toy. A Steiff historian told the museum that Robert was probably part of a set fabricated for a window display of clowns or jesters. Excuse me? So his whole history is bred in creepiness, which is kind of adorable, says Convertito, if you say so. Especially with his impish behavior, it kind of suits his personality really well. Of course it does. He's evil. Robert's little sailor suit was not supplied by the company. It was probably an outfit that Otto himself wore as a child. Oh my gosh, Mr. Otto. He is obsessed with this guy. According to legend, young Otto began to blame mishaps on the doll. This is the part where we read in the top 10 list. While this could have been laughed off as a childish storytelling, adults also started noticing odd occurrences, especially as Otto and Robert grew older. As an adult, Otto lived in a stately home he called the Artist House, where Robert could be seen positioned at the upstairs window. School children swore that he would appear and reappear, and they avoided the house. Myrtle Reuter, sorry if I said that wrong, purchased the Artist House after Otto's death in 1974, and also became Robert's new caretaker. Probably not a job that I would volunteer for, but go off, Myrtle. There's another freaking siren. Guys, I'm telling you, this is, like, I've never heard this many sirens come from my house. That, like, I have a main road out here, so it does come, like, in and out. But I've had, like, 5 since I've started recording, and I've only been recording for, like, less than 10 minutes. Anyway, visitors swore they heard footsteps in the attic and giggling. Some claimed Robert's expression changed when anyone badmouthed Otto in his presence. Reuter said Robert would move around the house on his own, and after 20 years of antics, she donated him to the museum. But far from banishing Robert to obscurity, his arrival at the museum marked a turning point for the doll. Since Robert arrived, visitors have flocked to the museum to get a look at the mischievous toy. He has appeared on TV shows, he has had his aura photographed, he is a stop on a ghost tour, and he's inspired a horror movie. He has a Wikipedia entry and social media accounts. Fans can buy Robert replicas, books, coasters, and t-shirts, and the most adventurous can even volunteer to be locked in with Robert after dark. Probably not, but thanks anyway. And they can and do write to him. He gets probably 1 to 3 letters every day, says Convertito, but they aren't typical fan letters. They're often apologies. Many visitors attribute post-visit misfortunes to failing to respect Robert or even openly disrespecting him. And they write begging forgiveness. That is a little bit insane. Others ask him for advice or to hex those who have wronged them. Convertito says they have received more than 1,000 letters which they keep and catalog. Wow. Robert said, get on your knees and beg if you really want me to stop torturing you. Robert also receives emails and homages. Is that word? Homages? I don't know. Homages. I don't know. Anyway, at some point it became known that Robert had a sweet tooth, so people leave and send him candy. Once he received a box containing 8 bags of peppermints, a card, and no return address. Exercising caution, the museum staff does not consume treats sent to Robert. I get that. Guests leave him sweets, money, and occasionally joints. Period. He needs to get stoned, apparently. It's completely inappropriate, says Convertito. We are still a museum. Okay, I understand that. Respect history and whatever, but I don't know. I still think Robert could use a little bit of a chill pill. Convertito is Robert's caretaker. Once a year, she administers a checkup, taking him out of the case and weighing him to assess whether the humid Florida weather has adversely affected his straw-filled body. She is also his proxy, receiving and reading all his emails and letters and running his social media feeds. Several years ago, she photoshopped Robert's knobby face onto the now famous picture of Kim Kardashian popping a bottle of champagne into a glass balanced on her behind. Why do I love that? I've never seen that picture, but I need to look it up. It was in order to attract attention to a campaign that would score the museum a grant if they generated enough votes. Through the combined forces of Kardashians and Robert's celebrity and the doll's social media reach, he has almost 9,000 Facebook likes, and the museum won by a landslide. Cool. Occasionally, Convertito corresponds on Robert's behalf. She tries to send something to every child who writes him. Jean always had that childlike temperament around him, and we feel like Robert would want to be kind to children. So that's a quote from her. And she has also responded to more poignant? I don't know words. All these articles try to use such tee-hee type words, and I'm like, bitch, can we just not? So she's responded to more fancy ones, I don't know, such as an email from a girl who is being bullied at school. Oh, so poignant, I guess, means like intense, more serious. Anyway, so does Convertito think Robert is haunted? She says, I don't know. I really don't. I've never had a bad experience with him, and I've never felt uncomfortable. I've always been a very basic relationship. I've always had a very basic relationship. It says been. I've always been in a very basic I don't know. And I have a job to do, and I go out and do it. And whether there's something to it or not, he just allows me to get on with my job. So at least he doesn't torture her. That's a vibe. That's a little bit of a vibe for sure. Okay, so now we are going to get into the personal experiences of just random people that decided to post about it on Reddit. So I'm not going to link every single one, but I will tell you guys the username of the people who posted it. So this first one is just called Robert the Doll Experience, and this is by user The Truth Is Here. So he says, in December, I went to Key West and visited the famous Robert the Doll. I was familiar with his history and etiquette for meeting him before going, so I was as respectful as possible and even brought him candy. We just read about that. He has a sweet tooth. Before we approached his room, I saw something moving in the glare of the glass display. When we went into the room, no one was there, and we couldn't explain what I saw. I asked to take his photo and felt like I wasn't getting any bad vibes, so I did take it. My husband, being the skeptic he is, was somewhat joking about the whole thing, but I don't think he said anything disrespectful. We went back to our Airbnb the next day, and this place had a really creepy atmosphere. We had been staying there for over a month by that point, and several of our friends had eerie experiences, but nothing too crazy. We were in the house alone the first night back, and we heard voices in the empty laundry chute. Checked it, still completely empty. We went to bed, and I felt like something was off. After taking forever to fall asleep, I was woken up at around 2 a.m. to noises on the floor. I didn't open my eyes at first because my brain was trying to give a logical answer for why it sounded like someone was going through our suitcase in the middle of the night. I listened for at least a minute before opening my eyes to see a Victorian woman in a white dress standing on my husband's side of the bed. Her face was covered by a white lace veil, but I knew in that moment that this was not a spirit. It was something else. I was frozen in fear and unable to move for a good 20 seconds before I started screaming and pushing my husband to wake him up. Yeah, I would not have lasted even 20 seconds. It faded into the wall in front of my eyes. By the time my husband fully woke up and realized something was wrong, I was shaking and hyperventilating. I had never seen an entity before. Oh, bitch, I'm so sorry. I know that's scary. I'd be doing the same thing. I smudged the entire house, which was a mansion, so that shit took forever, period. But you gotta get all the nooks and crannies. And while I was ringing the doorbells to chase... as I was ringing the bells to chase evil out to the door... I was ringing the bells to chase evil out the door to our bedroom slammed in my face as I approached it. Okay, I read that sentence weird, sorry about it. Our friends came back that night and we didn't have any more experiences. Do you think this was Robert? I feel like it wasn't, but it could have been related. I already felt weird about the house before we went, and maybe I just opened myself up to too much to interact with the paranormal. 2 weeks later, we went to Vegas and went through Zach Bagans' haunted museum, which had lots of equally famous haunted dolls. That night in the hotel room, our sink faucet turned on by itself. You have to physically turn the knob to get water to come out, and we heard it turning before the water started. We tried and could not debunk it. No more experiences since December, though, and it was pure coincidence that we saw so many haunted dolls in 1 month. It definitely wasn't planned. Wow. Okay, girl. I don't know. But that is definitely very creepy. Although I haven't heard anything about a woman in a white dress being connected to Robert. Maybe, I don't know. I still feel like it has to have something to do with the doll because you were there. But maybe you kind of picked something else up along the way. She obviously did say that she opened herself up too much to something maybe, but again, a lot of the times spirits and entities, they won't bother, like, you know, trying to make contact with people who aren't open to it. So maybe there was just a spirit floating around, and because you were obviously open, unfortunately, she tried to make contact with you. Now, she said her husband wasn't very open, like he was more so joking about it. So that is very interesting that this woman entity was standing on his side of the bed. Maybe she was like, bitch, look at me now. Do you believe now? Anyway, so this, I think I said the wrong username. That was by Fogelbar. I don't know. The truth is here is like the Reddit page. I don't really know Reddit, to be honest. I just started using it for this podcast, but that was by user Fogelbar. So this next one is by user RomsK4V, and it's called My Encounter with Robert the Doll. Back to 2017, I was 14 when I went to Florida with my family for 3 weeks of beaches, pools, restaurants, and local food, the kind of holidays I will never live again. And one evening, I was on YouTube and I was watching a video of Squeezy, my favorite videographer at the time. And in this video, he was telling the well-known story of Robert the Doll. Also, that vacation line, take me there. Take me there. I want a vacation. Anyway, the story begins at the turn of the last century when an African maid of the Otto family, rich Floridian aristocrats gave a doll to their son, Robert. From the beginning, Robert falls in love with his doll and never leaves it. So much so that he changes his name for Eugene in order to name his doll by its real name. I don't know. This isn't making sense. I mean, it is making sense, but the wordage is a little bit musty. We already know about that. This is why you should probably read ahead of time, but I want my real raw reaction. All in real time. Okay, so Key West is the southernmost city in the United States, but you have to take a highway. I started to say a Wi-Fi. I'm dead. Let me see. The last day came with excitement. My family and I set off for the museum. It was a very dilapidated and unwelcoming fort, hollowed out by time, the wind, and the sea, with seagulls eating the corpse of their siblings in the car park. Ew. We enter, and a redheaded lady in her 50s is at the reception desk. We talk to her to find out about the museum, and incidentally, to find out about Robert from the most qualified person, the museum guard. There, we don't joke with Robert. To take a picture of him, you have to ask him a question and wait for his answer. Some say that a bright reflection in his black eyes means a positive answer. The lady warns us that some people weakly disrespect the doll, and ends up sending a letter of apology to Robert at the museum so that he will stop the mischief. She adds that there is a video of a man hitting Robert's glass. This man died later that day in a road accident. Oh my gosh, no. I, little French that I was, naively asked if I could ask Robert to take a picture of him, as advised, in French, in a foreign language. And what did the lady reply? Try it, you'll be the very first. Okay, so maybe Robert, but I thought he was from Germany, so he must know some other languages, maybe not French, I don't know. We started the visit. My family and I were really enchanted. We were like crazy. We explored all the corners of the fort in search of Robert, apprehending all the same our meeting. I don't know. We pass old cannons, military costumes, old rusty weapons, and as we turn down a hallway on our right, there he is, Robert, the century-old doll, accused of being the reason of multiple unexplained deaths in Key West. The inspiration for the Annabelle and Chucky dolls, the main subject of Squeezy's horror movie. I've never heard of Squeezy. Here we are face to face. The doll is tall, sitting on a chair and enclosed in a glass cage. Behind him, letters of apology from multiple countries: Mexico, Germany, Qatar, I don't know if I'm saying that right, so sorry, all written in English and imploring Robert to break the curse he cast on them, which dissuaded us. I don't know words. What do? I can't read. So basically they were being impolite or something. Like, that's why they sent the letters. Anyway, I take my courage in both hands and say, "Hello, Robert. I am from France and will be delighted to take you in picture. Could I?" In French, a world's first. I take a picture of him and send it to all my friends via Snapchat. I don't know why I said via. Anyway, to show that I was the bravest, most reckless kid of my generation. With my photo taken, we hurriedly finished our visit and returned to the motel. The next day, the day of the big departure, we don't have breakfast because of lack of time, pack our bags and climb into the car to Miami, where we'll take a plane to France in the afternoon. At 11 o'clock in the morning, we come across a Wendy's, a fast food specialized in breakfast, so we stop there to eat. We sit down, order, wait, receive, eat, and pay for our order. We finish our meal, we go back to our car, and we are shocked to find it in a really abnormal state. All the windows are broken except the front one. There is glass inside our car as much as outside, meaning that the windows exploded and were not smashed from the outside. And more disturbing, our suitcases are intact. My headphones that were on the back seat are still in the same place as where I left them. We weren't robbed, we weren't carjacked, we weren't stolen from. The windows just exploded, all at the same time, as if Robert did it. Wow, Robert really has no tolerance for anybody. He said, "You respect me or I make your life miserable." Miserable. Okay, so we've got one more here. It is by user Chain and Scale, and it's called My Encounter with Robert the Doll. This is my written encounter with Robert the Doll. Details as follows is the meeting and later encounter with the spirit or entity attached to the doll, then an explanation of any bad luck that has happened. Everything that happened is real. I experienced it while awake. I was on no substances that could cause a hallucination and have never partaken in anything that would be considered a drug or illegal substance. You choose what you believe, but my eyes saw what they saw and I heard what I heard. Period. You tell them. I went on vacation with my family to Key West a few years ago. We decided to go to the museum to visit, and I honestly did want to go see Robert in person because I had read about him before. I took a picture at one point that had him in the background. It was not a direct picture of him. This was enough to get his attention though, but I did delete the picture later and it no longer exists. When he visited me, this means the entity moved from the doll. I heard laughing and turned on the light to see the metal pull cord to the fan. It was on, but I had never seen it move the chain prior to this, spinning around like someone had pulled it or was messing around with it. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I have like metal pull fan chains in my, what am I trying to say? On my fans at my house. And I will say that sometimes they do move, but they don't ever like spin around like all crazy like that. They'll just slightly sway sometimes. So that's definitely a sign. let me see. This was the extent of any interaction I have had with the entity away from the doll itself. Nothing happened while I was at the museum or during the day up to this point. Since taking the picture and the visit, I have not had anything that I would call unfortunate or terrible in a life-ruining way. I have a nice job that I like now, and life has been normal. Good for you. Love to hear that. I think there is a chance Robert may know when people... when someone takes... Dude, I am messed up. We can get through this. It's okay. I think there is a chance Robert may know when someone makes a mistake or is intentionally going up and taking his picture with full knowledge of what they are doing. Basically, if you play with fire in this case, you will probably get burned. Wow, that's a little bit of a minute one for sure. I will say... I still think it's valid though. Like, again, like I said, if there was like a bunch of movement to the chain, you know, I feel like to the fan, there was something there. But definitely that one's not the most extreme, I'll say. Obviously, this last person got freaking windows shattered on their car, and then what happened to the first lady? Oh yeah, she saw the freaking woman in white. So yeah, that's definitely very crazy. Mr. Robert, he doesn't play games. But I do wonder, so in one of them, it mentioned that he gets really upset when people badmouth Otto, which was the little boy that first had him. He went by Gene, I think, but every article has referred to him as Otto, so I'm gonna call him that. But yeah, I just wonder, like, if there is a certain like anger from being separated from him, and that's why, you know, he's so like hostile toward people. But I wonder if he couldn't have been that mean to Otto, because Otto left him. Like, it was his best friend. He never wanted to be away from him. So I don't know, I feel like in the case of Robert, he's probably very angry that he's not with his best friend anymore, and maybe he's just mad to be like put on display, because you have to think, like, everything that haunts something, it had to have been a person at one point, unless it's like an entity that's like, you know, demonic or something, because technically, like, demons, they never lived. Their spirits like bred from like evil and negative energy. So he could be that, considering the fact that he's like killing people. But I don't know. I would think that, you know, no human entity type thing wants to be like, you know, in a museum on show for everybody. So maybe Robert's just a little bit hurt that, you know, he's like I don't know, he's being put on display. Or maybe he doesn't want to be a doll. Like, maybe he's upset that he's in this like body of, you know, a doll, a toy, whatever. I don't know, but he's definitely a weird one, and he's a scary one too. I probably would be interested in like going to see, but I would not like fuck with this dude. I would not at all. So you have to be very respectful. And obviously, if any of you ever go there, if you have gone there, definitely email me about it. My email's always in the description of wherever you're listening or watching. But if any of you do want to go, just make sure to like listen to what the tour guides or like the reception people tell you beforehand. Make sure to always follow those rules, because you don't want to mess with paranormal too much. And I mean that in the way of like pushing boundaries. Like, if there is an entity where you know that they have a certain boundary, like this one, he needs you to ask permission, and you have to kind of guess if it's a positive or negative response. Look for the twinkle in the eye. But yeah, definitely respect those boundaries as much as you can, because you don't want to get stuck with an attachment. That's like the worst thing in the entire world. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know if you guys have ever visited him, or if you would, because I think I would, but I'm just so fascinated with like haunted stuff that I feel like as long as I had people with me, I would totally do it. But yeah, definitely just to make sure, follow all those boundaries, follow all the rules. But yes, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode about Mr. Robert the Doll. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next episode. I don't think there's anything else that I have to say. Also, I do just want to promote something real quick. Follow my TikTok. It is called All Things Ghostly Podcast. I posted some TikToks the other day about getting ready to film for this, so yeah, definitely go over there if you want to see some behind the scenes, get ready with me. I might even do like some, short little stories about some creepy stuff that aren't, full length like for a podcast episode. So yeah, go check it out, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.